Howdy all, welcome back. It's unseasonably cold today. I did a video 2 days ago here about playing in time, and I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. 2 days later, in the middle of the spring, I'm wearing a jacket and a beanie. So go figure, who knows what's going on, but it's an incredibly cold spring day here. What we're going to look at today, it's a quick one and a little side tangent thing, but it's something you may have come across when you've been looking at chords and keys and things and songs. It's what you can affectionately call the fraction chords. So when you see something like this and you go, okay, G/B, am I playing a G chord? Am I playing a B chord? Or you might see something like this, A over C sharp. You think, am I playing an A chord? Am I playing a C sharp chord? What is the deal with that? It's actually fairly simple. To play them, you'll need to learn where a few of your notes are and a few other shapes and that sort of thing. But all it is, okay, when we've done chords so far, if you remember how a major and a minor chord are built on the first note. So an A major chord is built on an A minor chord is built on an A D chord is built on a D minor chord is built on a D note. It's just the note of the chord. It is the actual note itself is what it's all built on. And that means that the bass note is that note. And by bass, I mean the lowest pitch note. If you're playing piano, the note that your left hand is hitting, that's the bass note, the lowest pitched note. If you look at a guitar, when you play a G chord, the lowest pitched note is a G. When you play a D chord, lowest pitched note's a D. When you play a C chord, lowest pitched note is a C. So the lowest pitched note, or the bass note, is always the note of the chord, the first. When you see things like this, that is G, where the bass note is actually a B. Seems weird, but if you get a G chord, the note you're holding down on the second string is a B. It's still a G chord, but you mute the top string so that it doesn't come out, and the B is the lowest pitched note. Now you can hear going from C to G sounds a bit different to going to C, G over a B bass. Hear that downward sounding bass note? Like that. That's G over a B bass. So that's what you're seeing. It's telling you to play your G chord, but you're going to change it from what it usually is to make the lowest pitch note a B. Let's have a look at A over C sharp. Here's an A chord. Lowest pitch note is the A, the bass note. Instead of that, we're going to still just play our A chord because that's the chord. So like numerator, denominator, it goes chord, bass. So whatever's on top, that's the chord. Whatever's on the bottom of the fraction is the bass. So it's an A chord, but we're going to make the lowest pitch note a C sharp. So we're going to count this A up. A sharp, B, C, C sharp. We find one on the 4th fret there. So what you'd be doing is playing an A, and in this case probably with a flat finger, but you would put the C sharp there as the bass note. Now you can hear that sort of thing a lot. If there was a progression that went A over C sharp, D, probably hear that a lot. Like that. That's the C sharp bass. So again, when you see these chords, what you do is the letter on the top is the chord you're playing. So if it's an A, or not necessarily a letter, if it was an F sharp, the musical note on the top is the chord you're playing. The one underneath is what you're changing the bass note to, and it will be a change from how you usually play the chord. You line the chord up, You find where your bass note is and you play it. Usually that changing bass note is just to another note out of the chord. So when it's an A, it'll be a C sharp or an E that's in the bass. When it's a G, it'll be a B or a D in the bass. Usually, not always, and a lot of the time, not always. So say, for instance, you might get something like A over an F sharp bass. The F sharp is not one of the notes in an A chord, but the bass is getting a mind of its own within the scale, and it's going to a different note altogether. So how would you play A over F sharp bass? You find your A, easy enough. Your next goal is to make sure the lowest pitch note you're hitting, no matter what you have to do, is an F sharp. So here's an A, where's an F sharp note? Well, here's our E string, so E, F, F sharp there, like that. So we want to play the A, but we want the lowest pitch note to be that F sharp. So we're going to add that in. Now there's something you hear a lot. Yeah, so this can, within your key that you're jamming with, in fact, this can give you something really new to try. So write out your, let's even pick the key of A here. Let's write it out. You know the deal by now. Tone, tone, semitone, blah, blah, blah. There is the A major scale. And we know our chords, so let's just write them up again as well. There's our chords, major, minor, minor, etc. So okay, let's write a chord progression. Let's just go A, E, D, A. Something simple like that. Now let's look at the other notes there and we think, all right, I'm going to seal on an A chord. I'm just going to pick another note out of the scale. We've already seen F sharp. You play the A and you put the F sharp in the bass. What if I play the A and put the E in the bass? What if I play an E and put the G sharp in the bass? Which is kind of hard to stretch to, but what if I play the D and I put the C sharp in the bass? Start to get some interesting sounds. What if I play the B minor and then I put the A in the bass, which is quite easy. You just take your first finger off that string there so that it's... So, oh, that is interesting. And then the G bass. F sharp. That's a really cool one for you to practice, to play around with the idea. So this is changing the bass note underneath the chord. Once again, think of it like soloing. You can play any note in the scale you want. Just don't go out of key. You can play any note, pick any chord and change up the bass to be any other note out of the scale and see what it sounds like. If you're in A, a good easy place to start is A. Then try F sharp in the bass. Try C sharp in the bass. Even B in the bass. Oops. And then try this sort of thing, like a descending bass line. We'll go down the scale, A, G sharp, F sharp, E. And we'll keep A as the chord. You can see how cool it starts to sound. What if we go to D and we try F sharp in the bass? Like that. Pick another key. Try G. We're all very familiar with G. Here's a G chord. Let's have a look. Why don't we try just moving the bass note up under a G? So play the G chord, and we're going to make the notes go G, A, B, C. That's pretty cool. What if we do G, then we make the bass go down to F sharp, down to E? And then go to a C chord. Like, you don't want to sit forever changing the bass down under a chord. You can muck around like that and come up with some really cool stuff. What if we went G to C, then we went to G over B bass, to A minor, to D, and then did D over C, D over B, D over A. Then you get that sort of thing. So this is a really cool way for you to start thinking about using your notes in the scale to create bass lines underneath your chords. Think of your bass as being like a solo, except you don't want it to spend forever not as the first of the chord you're on. Eventually you've got to make it resolve to the chord you're on, otherwise it'll just stay out there forever and never come back. But get yourself a chord progression and go, okay, G, D, C. Sorry, the battery's about to go flat. I'll be back in a second. And we're back. I swear my videos are like a comedy of errors sometimes, between out of tune instruments, batteries on cameras going flat, I don't know what else, but I'm glad you're still sticking around through thick and thin. I appreciate it. Anyway, new battery and we're back. So what this lesson is about is changing the bass notes in chords. If you look at the one upon I think it was the last lesson actually, was talking about building chords from the first to make the major and the minor chord. The lowest pitch note, the bass note, is always the first. Like if you want to think of it on a piano, it's the one you're hitting with your left hand. The lowest pitch note is the root note of the chord, the first. What we're talking about now is playing the chord, but then changing that root note to be something different. And you've probably come across it a lot in songs you listen to. A really good example that comes to mind is The Killers, Mr. Brightside, which I think is in C. But you can hear that opening chord do the C, then the G over B bass. Like that. You hear that downward going bass. So, yeah, what you can do, you can look in the songs that you like and find these things, but also when you're getting to know your chords in the key, you pick a key, you jam around in it. Now try creating changing the bass notes up a little bit. Just like you're in G, try doing then G over A, G over B, G over C. Just stick with the notes in the scale and do it for a bit, like G, then F sharp under D. That's a very common one, to go from G to D over F sharp, like that, to E minor, C, then G over B, A minor, D, and then do like D over C, D over B, D over A, back to G. I'm just mucking around, picking different bass notes to try. And that's what you should basically be doing. Just experiment around. If you're comfortable with a key and comfortable with the chords, then change those bass notes around and see what flavors you can create. You'll find it in a lot of songs. I mean, how many songs do you know that go... that initial one, G to D over an F sharp bass, like that. Or C to G over a B bass, like that. It's a ridiculously common thing to do. You're still playing the chords out of the key, C, G, and you're still playing a note out of the key, being a B in the bass. It's just you're not doing the normal bass note for that particular G chord. So that's it. have a play with that. If this has confused you, throw me something in the comments. It's a really cool thing to get used to because you're going to get very familiar with using your scale with your chords in the key, because that's when you start to get this. Oh, sorry. It is a cold day. All that type of playing is still just in the key. It's using the same chords, but it's mucking around with the bass notes, making them change around underneath the chords. So you're going to have to get a little bit familiar with your scale to make this happen. It's a good way for you to get to know your notes. Just sit there and go, all right, pull out your key. What if I want to do an F sharp? Where is an F sharp? Get used to that. If you're in the key of A, try A over F sharp. Try D over F sharp. Try B minor over F sharp. Even try E over F sharp. Like, listen to that full sound. That's very cool. Just pick a note and try playing your chords over it. See what sounds cool. Get used to the sound of it. Pick another note. Try playing your chords with that in the bass. See how it comes up. That's all I got. So, comments, let me know. I'll even do another follow-up vid on answering your questions if you want. Hope it's helpful. Bye.